I'm going to tell you about my method for practicing listening in Mandarin. Basically, the method is shadowing. The thing that's special about Mandarin is that rather than a video or something, I use an app. The app is called Immersive Chinese, and I guess the idea is that you can learn Chinese just by listening to the sentences on it. So it starts with like a super easy sentence, and then it puts different words in the same pattern or whatever, and you like learn it through immersion, I guess, is the idea. The best part about it is that you can pick sentences from like a certain difficulty level and just loop those, which is good because you can set it to like exactly the point where you know enough that you can learn from context. Yeah, in my other languages, I usually watch videos. So for like Turkish, German, Spanish, I watch like the easy language series, like the easy German ones. Then for French, I listen to like philosophy type stuff and self-development because those things tend to have quite easy, non-specific vocab. Like, you know, if someone's talking about the meaning of life, you kind of know the words meaning in life, which is easier than like a joke video or something. The problem with those videos is that there's always like some sentences that are too easy to help you and some sentences that are too difficult to help you or like to be useful to you, which I guess is related to that like comprehensible input hypothesis thing, which I don't know a lot about, to be honest. But since like you can set the difficulty of the sentences in the app, you get to pick like the point where, you know, like where there's only one unknown word in a sentence, or whichever level is going to be comprehensible for the comprehensible input. I feel like because of that, it's like more efficient and I make way more listening progress in Chinese than the other languages. But at the same time, that's probably because I find the easy German videos so boring and I feel like I'm not progressing when I listen to them, that I just don't watch them. So it's like a kind of chicken or the egg thing. I don't know why I don't find the app boring though, because all the sentences are just like random stuff. Like, do you want to go to the cinema at 2 p.m. on Tuesday? I guess it's just because like Mandarin is so difficult that even understanding a simple sentence like that is kind of interesting and fun. It's like a puzzle. Whereas if I hear the same sentence in Spanish, it's like, well, yeah, of course I would understand that. Even though I wouldn't be able to produce it myself, I can understand it straight away. So it's like, I don't feel motivated to review that a bunch of times like I would in Chinese. Like the mental challenge isn't there, so I end up not doing enough. Like, for example, whenever I read in French or listen in French, it just feels like, For example, now I'm really pink. For example, when I read French or I listen to French, it just feels like reading or listening to English because the words are pretty much the same and the grammar is the same. So it's just like reading English, but if all the words were slightly weird. And there's really no sense of achievement. So yeah, it's just not as satisfying as doing Chinese listening. So that's why I've been doing a lot of Chinese listening lately. When I started using this app, I had already been doing, I already talked about them in my German vocab video, but I do these like Japanese vocab book things. I have actually finished this one. It's like 600 words in Chinese, I think. But I haven't done the reviews yet, so I'm waiting until I do the reviews to make a video about it. But I was about, I don't know, halfway through this when I started doing the shadowing like properly. I'd kind of done it before, like I knew about the app before, but I started doing it regularly at like 300, 400 words type level. I kind of knew most of the words that were in the audios already. It was pretty interesting that I could just like understand stuff on the first go, even if I hadn't heard it before, because I'd learnt the words. This kind of confirmed my theory. Not really a theory, but I just feel like 90% of a language is the words, and then the other 10% is like practicing the words. So that's why I mostly focus on vocab. And that's what I did for Japanese and French, is just like learn a bunch of words and then like the grammar and stuff sort of just sorts itself out. Anyway, yeah, it was kind of like confirming that for me. Oh, but there were also cases where I knew every single word, but then I couldn't work out what the sentence was saying. And so I noticed like there were a couple of different ways that comprehension would happen. So I kind of wanted to talk about that. The first like way that I would acquire stuff, I don't know why I'm talking the past tense, that I acquire stuff is like a subconscious kind of way. I don't know how to explain it. It's like you do know all the words in a sentence and then you kind of hear it a bunch of times, but you never really understand it or know. Like I didn't notice that I knew all the words, and then I would like keep listening to it for like 2 weeks, and then randomly I would understand it and be like, oh, that's what that sentence meant. I should have understood that before. It would just magically start making sense. So that's like a subconscious thing. I've also experienced this in other languages where there's like seems like there's a point where understanding magically happens, and you would think that understanding it would like start from like a low level and then you'd gradually understand more and more and then you reach some kind of peak of understanding. But from my experience, it's more like you're kind of like here the whole time and then suddenly you understand everything. It's been the same for every language that I've ever read in, so Japanese, French, and ancient Greek. I just had moments where I was like, oh, I can read now, I guess. Yeah, so anyway, the other type of comprehension or acquisition, so there was like the subconscious one where you just suddenly understand stuff. The next one is like, because I've already studied all these words, sometimes I'll hear a sentence and it has the word in it that it has a word in it that I've studied before, and I go like, oh, that's how you use that word? I'm like actively thinking about like, oh, that's how you use that, or like that's what that means. Yeah, I would say that's more active. And then the other kind of active comprehension, I guess, is when you learn a word from context that you didn't already study before. I don't know, I didn't prepare an example for this. I guess like counters maybe are really quite easy to learn from context. Like if someone says, oh, please give me a pair of pants, then you can kind of be like, oh, well, I guess pair is like a way of counting pants. Especially like if you know the concept of counters exists, then every time there's a new object counted, you can be like, oh, well, that's the counter for that object. So just like that, but for a bunch of different words. Or like verbs where they can really only happen in so many contexts. Like I use a knife to something the apple. What's that going to be? Probably cut, right? So yeah, so I'd say that's kind of like active as well. I don't know. It's not, they don't need categories. It's just kind of an observation. And then I guess I didn't really talk about what the actual method is. So basically I just play the sentences on this app and then I shadow it. So I just try and say it as they're saying it, or like with a 1 second delay. Yeah, there's really nothing. I guess I would say that I think about like the intonation and stuff rather than what the words are or what the tones are. Like I'm thinking about the flow of the sentence and trying to say that. And then if I also happen to understand the sentence, then that's just like a bonus. And I've tried doing it like while looking at the pinyin and it just fucks me up. Like if I'm like hearing it, I can copy it relatively well. But then if I'm trying to read it at the same time, it goes weird. I guess that means that when I'm shadowing, I'm not thinking about tones. I'm just thinking about what the sounds sound like. Hopefully at some point it'll like unite in my head and I'll be able to think about tones and intonation at the same time. What I'll do is if I'm like going for a walk or I'm on the train or something, I'll like listen to it and I won't shadow. But if I'm in a place, like if I'm by myself, I'll shadow it. Or what I do most frequently is bicycle into town, and it takes like half an hour to get there, so I'll just like shadow while I'm on the bicycle. So that's like an hour a day on the days that I go into town. And from the perspective of the people on the sidewalk, it must be like, oh, a white girl on a bicycle. A white girl on a bicycle speaking Chinese into the air. But I don't care what people think of me. I'm in Japan where everyone's like kind of notices me anyway because I'm white. So I'm like, well, they think I'm weird anyway and they're already staring at me. I may as well be speaking Chinese. Yeah, I don't care what people think. I'm grinding. I'm on like I'm escaping the bilingual matrix. That's so stupid! Getting into the hyperpolyglot matrix. Like for the past few weeks, it's been like 2 or 3 times a week that I do that. So yeah, average like 2 or 3 hours a week. But like it's raining right now, so I haven't been doing it. Or like I didn't do it today, and I won't be able to do it over the weekend because there's a typhoon coming. But if I didn't have like a dedicated time to do it, I guess I would like set one aside in the day. Not that I have time for that right now, but if I was like really into Chinese or like only studying Chinese, I would make like a special time for it. Or I guess and I kind of do this already, like you could do it while you're cleaning or in the shower or something, like whenever you're doing a manual task that you could also be speaking Chinese while doing. Or if you if you have a train commute and you really don't give a fuck, you could do it then too. It's gonna be super embarrassing, but I'll do like a demonstration of what me shadowing is like. Unfortunately not on a bicycle. Hi lad, I'm on a bicycle. It's 1 AM and there may or may not be a typhoon. We're waiting further information on that one. But I refuse to procrastinate. If I want to die drowning in a gutter in order to make a YouTube video, that's my business. Let's practice mandarin.
我现在在国外，下个星期才回国。我希望他进不来。我现在进他的办公室。我没去过国外。外面很冷吧？快点进来。 但他下个月就要回国。我是外国人。我现在进他的办公室。现在越来越多的外国人在学习汉语。你会说外语吗？今天有一个老外来我们饭店吃饭。开门吧，我进不去。
Hi there, I'm Imogen's slightly soggier and slightly more British twin sister, and I'm here to share with you an important nugget of language learning information which was left out of the previous manifesto. That is, simply listening doesn't do shit. I listened to hundreds, maybe thousands of hours of Japanese before I got any good. If you're listening when you could be shadowing, shame on you. Why don't you escape from the quadrilingual matrix and get on the octolingual level? Okay, bye.